Special thanks to our presenting sponsor, IMDb, who also sponsors this panel.
So the critically acclaimed showbiz comedy hit is back after nearly 2 years, and what a journey it has been, But this time around, everyone has found success, but is that truly enough? I'm very excited to have the cast and co-creators here to chat all about season 3 of The Other Two. My name is Ryan Mitchell, and I am here with OutFronts. What's up, everyone? I have the co-creators, writers, directors, and executive producers, Chris Kelly and Sarah Schneider, Drew Tarvey, who plays Carrie Dubek, Helena York, who plays Brooke Dubek, Case Walker, who plays, Chase Dreams, aka, all the incredible Justin Bieber of it all. Molly Shannon, who plays Pat Dubek, Ken Marino, who plays Streeter, Brendan Scott Johns, who plays Curtis, and Josh Segura, who plays Lance. Yes. Okay, yeah, we already know what type of conversation today is about to be. I love that. Okay, so let's start right in. Chris and Sarah, season 3 jumps 3 years into the future and explores how the pandemic has impacted The Other Two. Talk to us about that decision and finding the humor through the darkness, of course, which the show is obviously really good at doing.
Nice.
Thank you. I mean, we mostly jumped 3 years ahead in time because Case Walker is like a full man now, and to keep her 14 is going to be embarrassing. So we were like, we just simply must jump in time. But then
you couldn't play a 13-year-old anymore?
Yeah, I mean, watching the pilot again, it is wild how little you are.
I'm only like 5'6". What do you mean? We could have sold it.
No, you at least read. I just say you at least read 6'7".
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's 195 of chiseled muscles, that kid. I hug him every day just to feel his back now. I'm like, come on, read those deltoids, big boy. Let's go.
Oh my God, Josh, be careful before your fangs pop out. That's a reference to the first episode of season.
But yeah, we mostly jumped forward in time because we were like, we have to for Case. But then also we made a joke about the pandemic at the end of season 2 that Carrie had this big movie that was finally coming out, and it was supposed to start shooting on the day of the pandemic, the day that it started. So we knew we were going to have to jump in time because we didn't want to set season 3 like in the middle of March 2020. So yeah, let's jump ahead 3 years. Let's solve the Case Chase age issue, and then just see how those 3 years would have affected all of our characters, like how it would have spun them out. Yeah, Carrie made his movie, and because it happened during COVID, it wasn't exactly what he dreamed of as a kid, which is kind of a good springboard into his season-long story, which is like none of it was quite what he dreamed of as a kid, So it allowed us to explore that, and then Helena, just experiencing Brooke's character, experiencing like everybody deciding to like transition their lives and start doing good and make a big change in their life, but she didn't, and should she have, and is she bad because she didn't? So yeah, the show is not about the pandemic, but it gave us a good like springboard for the season is hopefully what happened.
Yeah, I really appreciated that, right? Because I felt like so many shows were like reliving it. And I was like, please, I'm already paying thousands of dollars to my therapist. I do not feel like reliving it through like some of the funny TV shows that I'm already living in. Sarah, when y'all are talking about like the direction that you all want to go in the writer's room or with Chris, take us into that process. Is it something you already know season before, like in season 2 when you were planning season 3, or is it something that you all mutually kind of agree with in that process?
Yeah, we kind of come up with it all together in our writer's room, but we always have sort of like what the big idea for the season is. The first season it was Case's character Chase becomes famous and what that does to the other two. The second season it was Molly's character Pat becomes famous, what that does to the other two. And so then this season we were sort of like, oh, now that our other two, they're still like losers at heart, but they've gotten a little bit of success of their own. They're still who they are. They're still going to find someone to compare themselves to, even when they're at the top of their game. And we were interested in finding out who that was this season. And so it's basically, Josh's character Lance and Brandon's character Curtis are sort of like their foils for this season. And we were interested in exploring their dynamics and how they were changing. That's the like big idea for the season, which we settled on together, and then we just fleshed it out, episode by episode.
Which we're going to get into that in this conversation, because I thought that was such a plot twist. I was not prepared for it to find out, oh, these are the two that they're kind of like now being like, wow, I just don't add up to them. You know, Drew and Helena, when you all started to find out about season 3 and where Carrie and Brooke were going to end up, what was y'all's initial thoughts? I always love to know that when you first like be like, oh, okay, this is great.
I thought it was a great exploration of you know, my character and what he wants. Having Brandon Curtis sort of be what happens when your friend becomes the person who is doing better than you? Are you happy for them? Do you champion them? Are you jealous? And it kind of like heightened the emotion of, no, this isn't a stranger that is threatening Carrie. It's his best friend. And how does he react in those situations? So I loved it.
I felt a little offended. I was like, I feel like this character becomes more and more based on me as an actual person. So the mirror gets held up to me in a way that is really troubling. I'm always feeling like Josh is just so nice and great and gives dap to everybody and asks what everybody's up to and what's going on. And like, I'm just a bitch in the corner all the time. So it just really felt like living out something very truthful to me. You know, I think certainly during the pandemic, we were all faced with a lot of people being good people. Sarah Schneider was one of them. In my own personal life, Sarah Schneider is a little angel. So I just thought it was like a really funny, silly thing to get to play out. And these scripts this year are bananas.
Most definitely bananas.
If it makes me feel better, Elena, the scene at AOC, if it makes you feel better, was a conversation I had with Chris verbatim, where I said, maybe we fall behind and go work for AOC. And he said, doing what? What skill could you possibly offer? And I said, I think I could just sort of be there for her.
I was like, you mean like in an alternate reality? Like if you were 18, you would have come up through DC and worked your way up. She's like, no, now, like this showbiz is so hard. What if I just go help her? And I'm like, but in what manner? And she, just if she needs me, she can call me whenever. And I was like,
I do write, so like maybe there's some sort of writing based application that would apply also to her. We all look a little sideways, you know, during the pandemic.
Well, that's actually hilarious because I mean, the whole situation of the brunette moment, I was like, is she basically Sarah? Which is, it's so great. I mean, I want to throw it over to Molly. You know, Pat has always been the glue that holds the Dubek family together. But this season, I feel like she becomes even more visible and famous. I mean, on an Oprah, like Elon Musk type of level, it's quite crazy. How is she handling it? And will she finally set those boundaries for herself while trying to navigate this massive success?
Yeah, I think she is at the heart is she's an Ohio woman who appreciates opportunity and doesn't want to blow it, and you know, doesn't want to, just really wants to jump on what's happening right now. But really, the most important thing is family to her. So you always see her, like, if anything gets in the way of that, she will fight like a tiger to get that back and make sure she's not losing touch with her children. And so, but Pat has changed because she's, you know, this season, she's changed. You can't help but for all that fame to change you. And so you see her almost even speaking differently than she did. She's come into herself more and she's really embracing it, and she's savvier. But
can you order me some Reese's Pieces, by the way? I would love.
Of course.
I like that. I liked like the new wig and the new vibe, and you can tell she's had 3 years of being very powerful. And it like if you watch like season 1 versus this, it's like, it's fun to watch the way you performed it differently. It feels like a different person.
And I've never played a character like that, who, you know, is so rich and big, gorgeous, fancy clothes and expensive shoes. So it really, sometimes just the costume helps you click into it when you're wearing clothes like that and living in a big house. It was just so fun to play.
Yeah, I mean, it also kind of reminded me of like, obviously the roots of Chris and Sarah in the sketch comedy world, where like you're going into disguise and you're playing this new character. I'm like, this is Molly. I mean, that's how I was really introduced to like your career of your character work. And so how was it feeling jumping back into those moments? I mean, the disguises, They're awful, but hilarious.
Oh
Wait,
my
wait, there
God.
is that one episode where you're in a full prosthetics. Ken,
You're in
did
a
you
full
sit down
prosthetic.
next to Molly and not know?
Yes, we were just telling this story. So that episode, Molly was in costume and I didn't know it was her. And every time I would look up, like standing by the trailers, there'd be this woman who was like, and I'd be like, hi, how are you? And then I'd walk away. And then we were walking to set and it was like, she was following me. I thought she was following me. And I'm like, hi, how are you? And Molly, what was your perspective on it? Because
I was like, oh, that's so, I kind of forgot that I had the makeup on, and I was saying good morning to Ken outside the show. So I thought, oh, he seems like he's being kind of rude. Like, why? I was like, oh, maybe he's distracted. And then I think I tried to get closer and he was like, who's this lady? Like, really?
yeah, get away from me. I don't know who you are.
He kind of ignored me.
Yeah.
And then, but then we
What you
saw
do
one
with
another.
strangers sometimes.
Well, Ken is always pretty mean to elderly
Famously rude,
women.
yeah.
That's my thing. Everybody knows that.
Well, that's, I mean, as I said, kids thinking like the security's light on the set.
Yeah, where the hell was security? And then we get on set and we're sitting at the bar, and I look over. We're gonna run lines, and I look over, and there's that woman again.
No,
and I just
didn't know.
This is sort of
100% did not know it was Molly. I doubled over because I was like, oh, that's Molly. Because then I finally recognize her voice.
This is both a compliment to the prosthetics team and kind of a burn on what's going on with you, Ken.
Yeah, I'm
exactly.
slowly deteriorating.
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. You know, I want to talk to Case. You know, Chase is also, I mean, you hit puberty all of a sudden and it's like wild to me. You're 18, the fangs are coming out. You've grown up on this show and this industry, which I wonder, you know, have there been any like similarities or parallels with the way that this show kind of portrays the show business of it all and your own personal experience that you throw into this world?
Oh yeah, quite a few. I mean, Chase kind of goes through what everyone goes through from 16 to or 15 to 18, but just on the crazy celebrity level. And in my own life, there was a lot of learning I was doing, and you really start thinking about what people think of you and how you're going to grow up and what you're going to do. And I think Chase is starting to think about that stuff. Like for me, I'm 20, so I'm 2 years ahead of Chase, but he's definitely on that same path. And there's been times in my life where I'm like, yeah, I mean, totally similar to parallels a lot of the stuff I've been going through for sure.
I'm also 20 and feeling the same.
We're all just this whole Zoom, we're just a bunch of 20-year-olds trying to figure it out.
Thank you. Like, why? Of course I am, duh. But I mean, which is so interesting that we were just talking about Ken, and I feel like Streeter is, he walks this fine line of completely exploiting Chase and Pat, but also really caring about being a part of the family. You know, Ken, how do you find that like empathy and nuance for this character that could easily be looked at as like, for lack of a better word, creep?
Well, I try to not play creep and just let the writing be the creep part. And then I just try to, connect with I mean, I think Streeter does really care about the Dubecks and wants to be part of that family. Always has, well, from early on in the series, really wanted to kind of connect with them in a real way. But he also is a professional. He's a manager, and he, needs to manage. A manager's got to manage. And so, if they're not making some money, he's not making his 15, 20% or 10% or whatever I don't know what they negotiated.
He needs to figure out what
he's Streeter gets a cut of it.
20.
It's 20. It's 20%. He gets 20%.
Wow, you should have your lawyers look over that case.
Yeah, right after this, we get off the phone.
The only thing that we wrote though was you couldn't be in a relationship with Pat, and then Streeter did it anyways.
Right, he doesn't give a shit what the kid.
Oh yeah, but I mean, let me just say one of my favorite highlights. I love what you all, but I have to say I loved Curtis so much, and I get so happy to see him return each season. And I I specifically enjoy kind of the nuanced experience of Curtis being this more film character that doesn't really like feel like a stereotype or rooted in any of those negative tropes, which I truly appreciate. I would love to hear from Brandon. How did this role like fall into your lap? Like, why'd you say yes to playing Curtis?
Well, I mean, there's a very specific reason I did. I wasn't originally cast to play the role.
Say
and
the
then,
answer, Brandon.
I know, my God, here it is. It's finally my truth is coming out. They didn't want me anywhere near the show at first. But no, the morning that they were shooting, the original actor wasn't able to do the show at last minute. And they called me at like 6:30 in the morning, and like an hour later, I was like on my way to film the show. And so I kind of like said yes out of, you know, the kindness of my heart to save a show. And you know, and then it turned into this like amazing, incredible job. And the truth of it is that I've never been more excited to get a phone call from somebody at 6:30 in the morning. So it was really, really cool. But yeah, he's been like this like fun character that you get to see a little bit more each season and grow. And then this season you get to see his life outside of his world with Carrie. Like, I think the thing that I love about him the most is that like from day one, I just always thought like he's a good friend to Carrie. He loves his friends. He's done the work on himself that allows him to love others freely, and maybe in a way that Carrie's found some challenges doing that. And I think this season you get to see that tested a little bit, and to see what that unconditional love, where is there a breaking point with it? So it's been really fun to play the character over these 3 seasons to get to see where he goes.
I knew that actor went on to be Spider-Man.
Well, yes, I am Spider-Man.
No, the original character who didn't show up that day was.
Is it? I am like Spider-Man. Yeah.
It was Tom Holland. Tom Holland, right?
Not a burn on Brandon at all. Yeah, we had cast another actor who was great, but when they couldn't do it last minute, Sarah and I had known Brandon for years. Like, we came up doing improv and sketch with him at UCB, so we're all like real life friends, and we were looking for someone that was like, who can come now, but is like funny and good and will just be good, and we don't have to worry or wonder who it is. Yeah, it was truly very, and now he was so good that we were like, we didn't know or plan for that character to be a big or recurring or anything, but because Brandon's so good, he just became a bigger and bigger part of the show. So
same with
I had no idea.
I mean, the same thing happened with Lance. Which is funny because now this third season is about them, because these two are so great, but they weren't, you know, when we first wrote the pilot, they were an ex and they were, you know, a friend. So it was sort of like it could have gone either way, and now they're just so good. Wow. It was easy to write for them.
So what I'm learning here is I need to be friends with all of you so I can secure a job. Really good to know. Really good. Context is. I think what's incredibly spot on about this show in general, and I'll throw it back to Chris, you know, is just like the LGBTQ plus storytelling, right? Like this, it touches in a hilarious way some really like things that this community like goes through. And I'm super happy that we're going to see those dynamics play out when it comes to Curtis and Carrie's friendships with their highs and lows. But I guess talk to us about that responsibility of telling these stories with as much nuance as possible.
It's one of the great honors of my life. Yeah, okay. What if I cried immediately? Yeah, I guess it's like nice. The only answer we can say, which we say a lot, is like, it's very nice that people respond to the show and see queer characters that feel authentic and funny and like normal and like, you know, whatever, but we don't really think about it as much while we work. You know what I mean? We just kind of like, with any storyline, we just write what feels real, write what feels funny, write what feels relatable. And because I'm gay, because we have a lot of queer actors and writers as a part of the show, it just inherently becomes a queer show. But there's never any mandate or like, okay, well, episode 4 wasn't gay enough, so episode 5, well, actually, sometimes I say that. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool that people receive the show that way, but it isn't really something we think about as much, which is maybe how it nets out the way it does, which is maybe why the show feels the way it does or something. I answered a question. I don't know if I answered your question.
You most definitely, you answered my question.
As soon as I'm ever asked a question about responsibility and gay, I black out. And then when the answer is done, I wake up again.
Yeah. What did I say? F word 3 times, Chris.
What did I say? You know what you just said?
What did I say?
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Is the community mad?
And the
you said the 80s were the best time. And I was like, oh God.
I guess the crazy thing through like just, doing the work and just inherently it is a queer show. I think you also inherently show how great of an example the Dubek family and like Pat are just so great and supportive and being an ally, especially at this time. And Molly, I mean, playing Pat, who feels like she's everyone's mom, including my own, like, honestly, I would so be down for her to adopt me. I wonder, what does it mean for you to be kind of playing this part and having this role as a part of your legacy of work,
Oh, well, it feels great. I feel, I was saying this before I just feel so lucky to get to work with our amazing cast. They are so good. And Chris Kelly and Sarah Schneider, they're just, I feel incredibly lucky. They're so talented. And it's my favorite type of performing because they're so funny, but then it also is so it's so heartfelt and emotional. And so it's like my favorite kind of performing. So it's just the greatest. And being able to tell, yes, LGBTQ stories in a new, fresh way, in ways that haven't been told is just an honor. I love it. It's important.
Well, and Drew, what about you? I mean, Carrie's journey, as so many people, I know so many like folks, especially from being from a small town in Nashville, like that feels like a story that feels so universal, right? And so what does that mean to you to be playing Carrie? Like, so great.
I mean, it feels great. I mean, as I feel like, as a bisexual actor, to play a queer character that kind of, feels like, he's just going through the normal things that everybody goes through. And it's really like an honor because I feel less alone when I see that. So it really helps me to play it as well. A lot of times, you're kind of working through some like, real life stuff with fiction. So it's nice and I don't take it lightly. And I think it's really important. And I love that it's like and it's funny. It's really funny too.
Yeah.
Well, let me
Drew, you blacked out. Do you
I
remember
blacked out. Yes, I blacked out. Did I say anything weird, Brandon?
You said a lot of things,
You said a lot of weird things. I'm just going to put that out there, but it's okay. We're going to ignore it. And I'm going to go to like my crush of the show, which is Lance. And let me just say, Lance, I feel like you're in your, well, Josh, I feel like Lance is in his toxic positivity era this season. Talk to us about how your character has evolved, throughout this, the show. And I wonder how that is going to impact your relationship with Brooke, because it seems like she's over it.
Oh, you have quite a take.
It's funny, man. It's one of those things where I wish I could take credit for who this guy is, but that's Chris and Sarah, and that's them. Like, whenever we start back up, I'll be off to the side and we're discussing, whatever we're about to shoot. And Chris will say in my ear, he's like, just, Lance is all heart, okay? Or Sarah will be like, he's the nicest guy, and it's just one of those things where all it does is kind of give me the space to say like, okay, what that really means in this scene is that I'm giving Brooke space and I'm going to be a shoulder for her to lean on. And don't think I forgot what you said, Helena, and I'm not going to leave you out there hanging on this, because my girl Helena has my back all the time. She's one of my best friends. I've known her for years. She's compassionate. She cares very deeply about the craft of what we do, but she just cares about us as a group. She's the most patient with me because I'm neurotic at times and I'm caught up in here sometimes, and my girl has my back. So it's just a funny thing that's what we play at all the time. And we get to do it on screen in funny ways. And, classic Brooke is that she's got deodorant on the outside of her clothing and she falls asleep and plays. And only Lance knows that. And that's what makes them click. So it's a very, very fun part that I'm very grateful to Chris and Sarah that they gave me this chance to play.
So
nice. And this season, you fall asleep during a play, actually.
I do.
Well, okay, so before we wrap out of here, because I know you have so much more to be doing. I mean, clearly you're on a hit show. Like, why would you want to continue to talk to me? But I want to talk all things guest stars, because each season there is something like we can all look forward to. I need y'all to spill some tea. Who is making an appearance this season? Chris, Sarah, jump in. Anybody else who doesn't want to follow the rules, just jump in.
Simuliu. We have so many guest stars. We've got Kate
In
Berlant
Argus.
returning.
Yep.
Kate Berlant.
Anybody else?
Jimmy
Jimmy
Fallon,
Shipka.
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon, Kiernan Shipka, Dylan O'Brien,
Dylan
I
O'Brien.
get to say some fun- I get to say some fun things.
Lucas
For
Gage.
who?
Lucas Gage, Ben Platt.
And
Yes. Oh,
Our-
this is
we always say that our like guest list is such a fever dream because they're all coming on for such like weird specific comedy reasons. So it's like there's no through line. You could never guess what the season is based on our list.
And
of-
Dowd,
Yeah.
Dana Delaney.
And Dowd, yep. And that's a great one.
In Argus.
and
Finn Argus.
Oh, wow. No, like this is going to be absolutely incredible. And I have seen the first 4 episodes, but I can't wait to binge the rest. Thank you all so much. Season 3 of the other 2 debuts on HBO Max on Thursday, May 4th, with 2 episodes. And of course, you know, you've probably seen way more by the time this has come out. I'm very, very excited. Thank you all so much for being with us at the OutFest OutFronts. Thank you, y'all.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mitchell.